much respect to Errol Spence, and we're gonna talk about the rematch. And you know, like I said a lot of good things about Errol Spence. People don't listen to it. Everybody just focus on the negativity, but you know, kind of how he did Terrence Crawford, I ain't like it, even if it was trolling and not trolling. But ultimately, what we can say about Errol Spence is that he did do right by Terrence Crawford and gave him that opportunity. Now, he told Terrence Crawford to his face, he said, "I ain't promised you nothing. I promised the fans." And as a man of his word, I respect him for keeping his word. I respect him for taking an uphill battle. Deontay Wilder did the same thing. I respect him for going off a script. You know, I respect that, man. And one more I respect about Errol Spence, what I respect the most is he ain't quit Saturday night. He ain't quit. Say what you want to say. He went out on his shield. He didn't quit. His daddy didn't toss in the towel. Derrick James didn't toss in the towel. He took his ass whooping like a man. He didn't do the Andrew Galata and try to, you know, low blow his way out of it. And the shit tough. When you know you got an uphill battle, you know you're going to lose. But you still go out there and try, man. Shit, you learn something about yourself. Some of the losses in my life and how I was able to bounce back. I couldn't really see the glass half full. I looked at that bitch being almost empty. And a lot of shit the losses that I took in my life. But in hindsight, you know, every loss make you stronger. Every loss make you stronger. But I respect him going out on this shit. I respect him for taking the fight against Al Heyman wishes. And I know, you know, we all, as men, we all have pride. And the number one thing that touch your pride as a man is a woman questioning your masculinity, questioning your manhood. But as an athlete, outside of the woman, the number one thing is when a fan started to question you. Like when Mr. T pulled Rocky Hulk hard. And regular people wouldn't understand it. Women couldn't understand it. Like, why you gotta go in there? You know you're gonna lose. You know you can get hurt. You know you could be in danger. But it's something that, like, if you the man in your house and you hear something rumbling downstairs, like, it ain't even no discussion about who going down there with the gun or the bat or with a knife or a machete, whatever you got. It's you. You going to check it out. Only way you the second person on the scene is somebody downstairs already, or your dog done beat you to him, or your animal done beat you to him. But it's that same mechanism that's inside you. Like, it's like that's born inside of you. If you a real man, like you know, we are. A lot of people don't talk about how women are emotional, they're more patient. That's why they make better teachers. But they don't bring that up about men, how we naturally got that protection mechanism, most of us in us. Protect and provide. But he still fought. He didn't go into survival mode. Like, he didn't try to box and use the ring and just try to mail it in and hope to get a decision. Like, he was thugging it out. He was fighting through fatigue, the lactic buildup in his arms. He was willing to go to the end. He was willing to go to the end. You gotta respect that, because you learn something about him, because he not just gonna lay down. So I will say that about him. He not gonna lay down. You got to put him down. And that's something. That's a great attribute. He kept getting up. And he learned something about himself. Like it or not, he learned something about himself. He probably not gonna admit it, you know, but he learned something about himself. Tough, resilient, you know. He bounced back, man. He took it like a man, bro. Because he could have ran the 54, but I was hearing somebody talk about money karma. But it's boxing karma, too. And he did what was right, and, you know, you got to respect it. You know, was it made worse because they prolonged it? Absolutely. Anytime you let pressure build up, you know, you take the top off and it explode, you know, that's just what it is. But without him making concessions to make this fight happen, it don't happen. and that's exactly why Al Heyman didn't want it to happen. And Al has got to tweak what he's doing. If he's going to pay Bruce Trampler to help his guys figure out how to matchmake a lot better, then that's what he's gonna have to do. He got to get better at matchmaking. It's just like one day he throw a prospect off the deep end, or one day he throw guys that he put years and time into off the deep end like this. You got to see. It's important to know where a fighter is strong at, and it's even more important to know where a fighter is weak at. That way, when we know where he's weak at, we know to make him. We know to matchmake him. We know to matchmake him against those type of guys in small increments. And I talked about this before. So if you got a problem with athletic fighters, okay, guess what? We're gonna get a bunch of athletic sparring partners, you know, and they do got a liaison. They go to the camps and tell these guys how these camps is going. I had D. Puller on my team. He's a liaison. He go and see if these fighters' camps need tweaks. You know, I had an interview. Look up D. Puller, and he go and see if these fighters need to be tweaked and shit, and you know, and see what needs to happen. But in my opinion, hold on. In my opinion, it's like you put them in there with guys that move, they got it, you know, gonna give them issues. You put them in there with a bunch of spar partners. You put them, you know, when he's coming up, you put him in there with those guys because you know he's gonna eventually have to fight one of those guys. So you find the movers. Even on the European, if you take them on the European trip of guys like Michael McKisson's, and you try to put them in there with those type of guys. You put them in there with those type of guys, and you know, smaller increments. You don't want a guy that can move, he can punch, but you build up to that type of stuff, and you got to matchmake them towards their weaknesses earlier, so they know how to fight them. And if you notice with Tim Tszyu, he know how to fight American fighters very, very well. You know, and the reason he know how to fight black American fighters so well is because they be in the gym with him. So it's not a shock to him on how he needs to conduct himself fighting them. He knows exactly what needs to be done. So by the time he got to this level, he knew exactly what they bring to the table, where the black American fighter is strong at, where they weak at, you know, where the advantage at. And that's how you do it. And that's what, you know, that's a product of coming from a boxing family. You don't steer away from those guys with perpetual movement. You know, you don't stay away from them guys, but respecting him, Doug, because I mean, a lot of people do. A lot of dudes would have quit. They would have stayed down. And him and Fogan went out on their shield, and Errol Spence is a real fighter. He got a fighter spirit. Deontay Wilder went out on his shield, a real fighter spirit. But as far as the rematch, of course, he told you he was a dog. He said, I want to do it again. Now, he might have weighed the decision. Now, it sounded like Terrence Crawford said he'd do it at 54. He said he had a hard time making weight, too. He said he'd do it at 54. So there ain't no question about it, but you got to sit down and see what makes sense for him. Now, you know, should he take the rematch? I mean, where's Terrence Crawford going? Unless he retired. I go out there and try to get a warm-up fight at 54, but I tell you this, he's not going to be at 54 long. That's going to be a pit stop. That's going to be a pit stop. That's going to be a pit stop. You know? That's going to be a pit stop. Because he stayed so long at 47, but that's going to be a pit stop. But, you know, I mean, he want to do a rematch. You know, a lot of people don't think nothing can be different, so maybe a few adjustments can be made, but You know, I mean, what about them, both them trying to get a belt and doing the unification? I don't think, Bud want to be hanging around through the politics or trying to do Undisputed again. You want the one shot, one kill versus Jamil Charlo, and I'm going to talk about that later in the week, about them, fighting or whatever. But yeah, maybe they, Charlo vacate and they get a belt and they do it again down the line. I mean, you just never know. But immediate rematch, if that's what he want to do, I mean, I didn't see anything that's going to change it. People can say he was drained and this, that, and the third. I mean, I just think it had a lot to do with Terrence Crawford being on point. Crawford about to be 36 years old. Got to make weight too. That's hard. Regardless, So, I mean, he said it's always hard to make weight. And the number one person he got to blame is Al Heyman. That's the number one person he got to blame. Al Heyman allowed for this man to sit at the weight. He allowed him to sit at the weight. For a long time. He should have forced Keith Thurman to fight him, and we wouldn't even be having this conversation. So, Al Heyman played him. Instead of, Melvin hurrying up, instead of stringing the fights out, hurry up, let him be undisputed, fight Keith Thurman, see if they can do something with Pacquiao, Jeff Horn, and be done before Terrence Crawford even came to the division. But that's what he want to do, but I don't see too much that was going to change in a rematch. The gloves get a little bit bigger in 10 ounces. But, I mean, then you start thinking about, what's the future at 54 for Errol Spence. So, I mean, that is what it is, man. I don't really see much going to change, but maybe down the line they can make some adjustments. But one camp ain't going to change nothing. But, hey, thumbs up the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. Next subscribe button is the bell icon button. Hit all notifications, increase your chance to get notifications. We go live or drop video. Financially, want to support the channel, Cash App, $CJGood313, Venmo CJGood313, PayPal link in the description. Hit the link tree, find me on Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, Anchor, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, the whole nine. Appreciate the love and support. Peace.